Hi, my name is Rohit. Welcome to my channel where we talk about life, love, and all the things that matter to being a better person. Today we're going to talk about emotional stress reduction. We all want to feel good and avoid feeling bad. But is it possible? Self-help gurus tell us to be positive, but life happens and knocks us off balance. We feel bad and we feel like we can't win. To love yourself and to feel, or for that matter, to feel positive, you're going to have to first learn how to feel bad. Because the fact is that bad things are going to happen and they are going to knock you out. And you are going to go through negative emotions. There's no avoiding it. How you deal with that and how good you are at that, how much you master those emotions is going to make all the difference. Unless we learn how to feel everything we feel, unless we learn how to let our feelings guide and teach us, and at the same time not identify with them, sounds like a lot, it's going to be really hard to conquer this aspect or this part of ourselves. I have something really interesting to share with you today. You're going to love this. I'll be with you in just a moment. And welcome back. I'm sure you've heard about self-love. That seems to be the next phase in our defeat strategy. Let me explain to you what I mean. The dictionary defines self-love as regard for one's own well-being and happiness. And most people think that self-love is about feeling good, being positive, and taking care of oneself. But that is precisely why self-love doesn't work. Let me explain what I mean. So we have two different parts. We have a logical hemisphere that works in very logical ways, and it has its own language. And we have another part that is emotional, the emotional part of ourself. And that does not operate the same way as the logical part does. It has its own language, a language that was never taught to us. In schools, they taught us all about science and logic and math and all that kind of stuff. But where did they teach us about emotion or relationship or any of the strategies required to cope with life and all its ups and downs? Nowhere. The fact that our emotions have an entirely different language that needs to be understood and mastered is the key to having a healthy and balanced life. Now, the coping strategies that we've been using up till now, for the most part, might be something like this. We might be suppressing our emotions, or we might be indulging them. But the fact is that neither of these help. If we suppress our emotions, that leads to explosions, outbursts. We call that the pressure cooker effect. And like the pressure cooker builds up the steam inside it and eventually it just explodes because there's no release valve. There's no way to express that. And sometimes it leads to us trying to use that energy that is built up in us, the pent-up anger, frustration, to control others, or to have conflict with others, or to get mad at others. And sometimes we internalize that emotion and it results in disease. So either way, it's a no-win situation. On the other hand, if we indulge our emotions and we keep replaying them over and over and over again, we keep attracting in our minds all the emotions that might be related or even unrelated to these unhealed emotions. And eventually we find ourselves sinking in a whirlpool of emotions. We may even become identified with them. You might start to think, I am not good enough. I am not worthy. I am... And all of that negative identification is likely to help you feel defeated, like a victim, helpless. Now, that's not constructive either. Our thinking generates our emotions. Our thinking determines how we feel, because everything originally begins with a thought. If I think that the glass is half empty, or if things are going bad, if I focus on what is not working in my life, I'm going to start feeling sad, miserable, upset, or whatever. If I start thinking that things are looking great and everything's looking wonderful, if I turn my mind in that direction, it will affect the way I feel. Now the problem is, if I think negative, I feel negative. When I feel negative, my body starts to release certain chemicals like cortisol. is cortisol is a stress hormone and is responsible for the fight or flight syndrome. Habitual negative thinking makes one addicted to cortisol. In the US, it is reported that 77% of people report physical problems due to stress, and 73% report psychological effects, also caused by stress. So it's a very deadly thing, the relationship between our emotions and stress. There are deep roots that connect them together. The symptoms of this kind of stress addiction, if I can call it that, is that you begin to feel fatigue, an increased heart rate, high blood pressure, insomnia, change in appetite, anxiety, irritability, depression, withdrawal, and a compromised immune system. If you've been experiencing these things, then what we're going to talk about right now, the solutions I'm going to present to you, are going to be extremely important. Some of the other symptoms you might experience might be a feeling that you have no time. You might start avoiding social interactions and fun hobbies, and you might find your relationships falling by the wayside. For example, your partner complaining that you've not got enough time for them, and gradually perhaps distancing themselves or even leaving you. People who are in this situation don't tend to feel happy, but instead tend to take on more and more of the stress-inducing situations. It's really quite a trap that we get stuck into. The author of the book Addicted to Stress, Debbie Mandel, writes, "A stress addict is looking to feel numb through distraction to avoid dealing with the source of unhappiness and loss of control. It is easier to be incredibly busy than to face the painful layers of grief accumulated during the course of a lifetime." Let's understand the opposite as well. Positive thinking releases dopamine, produces peace, contentment, clarity of mind, and a solution-oriented thinking. Techniques that help in that are meditation, deep breathing exercises, journaling, working out, and guided imagery. The most important thing, before you can even go into any of those techniques, is to get to the root of your emotions and learn to release them. See, our feelings are neither true nor false. They are neither right nor wrong, neither good nor bad. They are what they are. And what's really important is that we learn how to talk to our feelings in their language. As I said earlier, suppressing them isn't going to help, avoiding them isn't going to help, indulging them isn't going to help. To get to the root of the emotion, we need to find out what's triggering it. Usually the things that are triggering it, for example, if someone said something or did something, let's say a person didn't pay attention to us and we felt neglected, and if in feeling neglected we feel that I'm not that important to them, and then we start to either get angry or we tend to start avoiding them. But whatever it is that's triggering it, that's coming from our unhealed wounds. These wounds in turn will generate defensive thoughts, beliefs, and responses. So the key thing is to be able to introspect. Your feelings are coming from you, not from the world, not from others. If you keep pointing the finger at others and blaming them and accusing them, then you're going to deflect and not deal with what's going on inside you. So the key is to stop blaming and accusing and use the triggers that in life that bring up these emotional responses, and use them as a way to introspect, to learn about your triggers and your needs. When I was in my 30s, I actually began to realize that I had no clue as to what I was feeling. If somebody asked me, "What are you feeling right now?" I'd say, "I don't know." "What do you mean, what am I feeling?" I was clueless. I actually began to turn to a book by Louise Hay, which was called Heal Your Mind, Heal Your Body, in which she had a chart. And then I would take physical symptoms, let's say something churning in my stomach or an upset or a headache or pain in my shoulder or knee or whatever it was, and I'd connect that to a possible emotion. And little by little, as I did that, I began to understand and tune in to what my feelings were. Then I had to figure out how to be able to work with those feelings, how to release them, how to understand them. And so I developed a whole system. Some part of this system is part of what you already might know. Some part of it might be new. So let me take you through it. The first thing I learned was this, that you need to be able to express your feeling. So if you are feeling angry, and usually anger is the tip of the iceberg, so to speak, or the tip of the volcano. And if you're feeling angry or you're feeling frustrated, you may, depending on the intensity, you may need to find a safe place to be able to express that. Now, if your feelings aren't that extreme, you may go to the next step. But if they are at that extreme level of anger, frustration, it's pent up inside you, you may need to actually scream or yell or curse. So I'd suggest finding a safe, isolated space where you can do that. Perhaps rolling up the windows in your car, perhaps going to an area which is in nature, cut off from everything else, or perhaps even in your own house, picking up a pillow and screaming into it. Perhaps punching a pillow, perhaps expressing, physicalize your emotion. Let it out through your sound, through your actions, through your words. You may want to run with your emotion. Think about the thing that's upsetting you and run with it. You may want to exercise or lift weights. Just be careful, don't overdo it. You may also want to, in extreme cases, want to write perhaps an insulting letter to the person who you think hurt you or upset you. Now, I don't recommend giving it to that person. It might be far more useful just to put it down and release it onto that paper, or draw it, or paint it, or doodle it, right? But after you're done with that, burn it. Burn it, release it. You may want to take the ashes of the burned piece and stamp on them, right? You may even, if it's really extreme, want to bury it and really let it go. But the first step is express your emotion. And the different ideas I've given you depend upon the intensity of that emotion. As you express it, the next step really is to feel it. Now, when you're feeling it, take a deep breath and come into your body. And notice, where do you feel a tightness or tension or constriction in your body? Pay attention to that. Come into your body and just feel where it is that you're feeling this. Close your eyes and go within. Notice if that energy of that emotion has a color, a shape, a texture. If it had, what would it be? What is the emotion being held here? Feel it. Allow it to be felt. The most important thing with emotions is to allow them to be felt. See, for example, if somebody is feeling upset, let's say your kid or your partner is feeling upset, and you go up to them and say, "Hey honey, there's no reason to be upset. What's the big deal?" They're going to get more upset. When an emotion is denied or rejected or made to feel unimportant, it gets worse, it flares up. So what's really important to do is to allow for it to be expressed, to allow for it to be felt. That is the first most important thing. Do not rationalize it. Do not bring logic into it. In fact, keep your logic completely outside the door. Do not bring any logic in here. Simply allow it to be felt and expressed. Step number 3 is need. Ask the emotion, what do you need? What is the need that was not met by the person in your life right now, or the situation that you're in right now? And what was the need that was not met at the core of where this emotion came from, at the earliest roots of where this emotion was born? You really need to be able to go back to that part and just trust where your mind is taking you. If it's taking you back to some point in childhood, pay attention to that. What was the need that was not met? Our ego tends to be like a child. When a child's needs are met, it tends to be safe and feel cared for and nurtured. In relationship studies, they've called this secure attachment. A child whose needs are met, when it cries, mommy is there, begins to develop a sense of being secure in the world. It knows its needs are going to be met. But a child whose needs are not met by its infant caregiver is going to feel a sense of being unsafe in the world, that their needs are not going to be met, and they might develop what is called an anxious attachment style, where they're constantly anxious about whether their needs will be met or not. So this carries on into adult life. They may tend to get really upset and triggered when their needs are not being met by the partner. They may in turn then start yelling or blaming or accusing their partner, whereas in fact the issue is something very internal. And they need to be able to come to that part of themselves and say, what is it you need? Literally like a parent talking to a child. It's almost a process of reparenting yourself, where you go into your own body and you find out, what is it I need? What is my core need? And then be able to say to yourself, honey, I'm here for you, and I will give you what you need. I love you, and I will make sure that your needs are met. So first discovering what those needs are, and then being able to reassure oneself that you are there for yourself to meet those needs. The next step is to learn even further. What are my shoulds and expectations that I'm projecting on this other person or on this situation? Perhaps your job, perhaps your partner, perhaps a friend. What are the ways in which I'm trying to get them to meet my needs by creating a bunch of shoulds and should nots, or expectations, or fears? And all of those come back to the same triggers. So those are the ways in which you learn to cope with that need and try and get it from others. So again, look at how you've been trying to get those needs met, and now instead of projecting it on that person, bring it back to you. Right? Bring it back to looking at how I can fulfill those needs for myself. The fifth step is release. Now thank the emotion for having shared with you all the different things you needed to know about where it came from and what the needs were and what it is that you were truly longing for in your life. And as you thank it, breathe it out, release it. Visualize the shapes, the colors of that emotion leaving your body as you breathe them out and going back into the sky, back into the clouds, back into the universe. As you release it, you will find yourself feeling lighter and more peaceful. Now we come to the sixth step, and that is to share. What you want to do is now go to the person concerned and share with them what you've learned about yourself, what you discovered about the root of your triggers and your emotions, and then ask them for what you need. It's as simple as that. There's no need to demand it. There's no need to expect it. There's just the request, and there's the preference. And letting them know that if that happens, this is how it feels to you. And if it doesn't happen, that's their choice. You need to be able to set them free. If you hold them tightly to wanting to give you what you need, you're going to drive them away, or definitely create a lot of conflict. But if you set them free and let them know how good it feels to you when they do that, and if you can literally train them by appreciating them whenever they do take steps in that direction, because it may not be natural to them. It may not be their love language or their style or their way of doing things. But at the same time, they can be shown and they can be trained in by acknowledging them and appreciating them for meeting those needs of yours whenever possible. Remember, the other person is only like icing on the cake. The cake has to be provided by you. You need to be the one taking care of you. After all, the main difference between a child and an adult is this. The child does not know how to take care of their needs. They need someone else to take care of their needs. The adult, on the other hand, is very capable of taking care of their own needs. So when it comes to our emotions, we need to understand that we are the ones who are the primary caretakers for ourselves, emotionally, mentally, and physically. And others are there to assist us, to support us. It's wonderful to have others, but it isn't wonderful to be dependent upon them in a childlike way. Because at that point you've given away your power and you're going to find yourself feeling very upset, helpless, angry, frustrated, and let down, which is something we can all avoid. I have used this technique not only to help me deal with emotions, but also to help cure illnesses. I have a strong belief in the body-mind connection, and I've noticed that when I am able to resolve my emotions, I'm able to release illnesses from coughs and colds and fevers to all kinds of things. For the past 20-25 years I've been doing this, and I've been able to keep myself in an extremely healthy state of mind and body. So use it the next time you're not feeling too well, but the key to that is do it as soon as possible. Try and catch the first early symptoms and then check in with your emotions and listen to them, acknowledge them, learn from them, release them. I would love for you to be able to experiment with this and try it out and let me know your feedback. How does it work for you? Maybe you have some better ideas. Maybe you have some more insights. Maybe you think some of the stuff I'm saying is totally wrong. In any case, share with me your opinions. I would love to hear your views in the comments, and I look forward to joining you in the next video. Till then, subscribe and ring the notification bell so you can know about more videos that I'm putting out as and when they're launched. I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care. With love.